Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Namaskaram and welcome to the 19th episode of Śiva-Bodha-Mālikā. Today we shall look at the form of Shiva as Linga. Last time we looked at the story of the Lingodbhava Murti. All the Puranas, they speak of worship of Shiva in two forms. The Puranas say, Abhyarchayan Devam Linge Verecha Shankare. The two forms, that is Lingam and Veram. Veram refers to the anthropomorphic form or the Saguna aspect. Lingam is the Nishkala. So, in the Puranas itself, it is mentioned that Shiva is worshipped in the Sakala and Nishkala form. It says, Shiva Eko Brahma Rupatvat. Shiva represents the supreme Brahman, that ultimate Brahman. And that Brahman has two forms. Nishkalaha parikirtitaha rupitvat sakalaha tadvat tasmat sakala nishkalaha. Even the Brahma Sutras speak about this, of Brahman having the Saguna and Nirguna, the Sakala and Nishkala form. So, Shiva representing Brahman has also these two forms of Sakala and Nishkala. Nishkala is without any kalas, without any parts, partless. There are no parts to it. So it is one whole. That is how you found the Linga as an ellipsoid, as one single entity without a beginning or end. That is the form of the Linga. The common Shiva Lingas that you see are all mostly in the form of an ellipsoid. That means there is no beginning or no end to it. It is Nishkala form. Sakala form is the form of Shiva that you find in the various Utsava Murtis, etc., in the form of Nataraja and other forms that we saw, where you find different parts. There are different aspects to that Murti, to that Vigraha. So this is the Sakala and the Nishkala form. Now, Nishkala form of Shiva is what is the Linga. And the Nishkala form has been spoken of elaborately in the Upanishads. The term Nishkala itself comes a lot many times in the Upanishads. The Shvetashvatara Upanishad says, Nishkalam, Nishkriyam, Shantam, Niravadyam, Niranjanam. This is how it describes Brahman. Similarly, the other Upanishads that are there also speak about the various forms, Nishkala forms of Brahman. Hiranmaye pare koshe virajam Brahma Nishkala. Jnana prasadhena vishuddha sattvaha tastutam pashyate nishkalam dhyayamanaha. So in various forms, the various Upanishads speak of the ultimate Brahman as Nishkala, as one without parts. And that is the form that is represented by the Linga form of Parameshwara. Now, there are a lot of debates and discussions on the term Linga, right? With various people claiming and speaking about the Linga as a phallic worship. A lot of Mahatmas and scholars who have commented even on the Vedas and various aspects of the Shaiva Granthas have very clearly articulated that, including the Puranas, it is very clearly articulated that it is not speaking about the phallic worship. As I mentioned to you, the very form of the Linga is that if you can see those lingas that are typically worshipped in the form of when you do the puja or the Shiva puja, etc., especially those that are got from the Narmada river, which are called as Bana lingas. That lingas, if you look at, most of them will be in the form of an ellipsoid. And that is primarily to indicate the beginningless and endless state of the Brahman. The term Linga itself is explained in the Puranas as Layanath Lingam Ityuktam. It is called Linga because it is the Layanasthana. It is into which everything dissolves, into which everything goes. That is why it is called as Linga. I think this is very, very important for us to understand that the form of Linga of Parameshwara is the form of the Supreme Brahman. Janmadhyasya yataha is how the Brahma Sutras describe that from which the world has originated, into which the world sustains, and into which the world goes in, gets absorbed into. Layana. So it is the ultimate Layanasthana for the entire universe. That is why it is called as Linga. Now, there are various forms of lingas that are described elaborately in the Puranas. The various classifications of lingas are there. Chala, Achala lingas. Chala lingas are lingas that can mobile, movable. Most of them which we use for various pujas, etc. Achala lingas, those that are immobile, that are placed at one place itself. The other various classifications of lingas are Swayambhu lingas, Manusha lingas, Daivika lingas, Arsheya lingas, Bana lingas. Bana linga, the common lingas that we use for worship in Shiva pujas, at our homes or even in temples. Bana lingas are the lingas that are got from the bed of the river Narmada. That is why Narmada is called as Linga Garbha. She has lingas in her garbha, in her womb. So only those lingas, only those stones that have got polished in such a way and are taken from the garbha, the womb of the Narmada river, the bed of the Narmada river, they are referred to as Banalingas and are worshipped as Shivalingas, not from any other river. So that is the greatness of Narmada, which we will explain in some of the upcoming sessions of the relationship of Narmada river with Shiva. Okay, so this is the worship of Linga, the various forms of Linga, and how these worship of Linga is there. So as I mentioned, the Puranas speak about both worship of Parameshwara in the form of a Linga and the Vera, the anthropomorphic form, the Sakala and Nishkala. That is why in various temples, the Mula Vigraha would be a Linga, whereas the Utsava Murti would be the form of the Sakala. So Nishkala and Sakala, this you will find in most of the Shiva temples, especially in the south. In most of the Shiva temples, you will find the Mulavar or the Mula Vigraha in the form of a Shivalinga, always. And the Utsava Murti will be in the form of a Sakala. And we have seen many of these images in the past sessions as well, right? So this already represents the Linga Vera, the two forms of worship of Parameshwara, both in the Sakala form and the Nishkala form. Now, the very placement of the Linga in the pedestal on which it is placed, that is called as Linga Vedi or Pithika, Linga Pithika. So even this Pithika, there are various explanations given in the Puranas, where they say that Linga is Parameshwara and the Pithika is Uma or Shakti. So Shiva Shakti. So it says Linga Vedi Mahadevi Lingam Sakshat Maheshwaraha. In another explanation, it speaks about the Pithika as Vishnu. So it is Shiva Vishnu Samyoga, Harihara Samyoga. It says Pithika Vishnu Rupam Syat Linga Rupi Maheshwaraha. Tasmat Lingarchanam Sreshtam Sarvesham Apivai Dvijaha. So the worship of the Linga is great because it already represents the merger or the combination of Shiva and Vishnu. Vishnu representing the Pithika and Shiva representing the Linga. So these are the various aspects of Linga and the Linga worship that is described in the Puranas. Now, As I said, most of the Shiva temples that you see will be in the form of lingas. Primarily among them are the Jyotirlingas. Jyotirlingas, connecting with the story that we spoke about last time of the Analastambha appearing, the Jyotirlingas are also related to that story. And such Analastambhas are said to have emerged in 12 places, in multiple places, but 12 among them are considered to be extremely important. And these 12 places, each of the Analastambha, then once the stamba disappeared, it got condensed in the form of a linga in each of these 12 places. These came to be known as Dvadasha Jyotirlinga. That is why the prefix Jyoti comes to the linga, because it is associated with the Analastambha, the fiery column that got condensed in the form of a linga. So here the Shiva Purana says, Avataran Shrunu Vibhoho Dvadasha Patiman Paran, Dvadasha Pratima, 12 forms, Jyotirlinga Surupan Vai Nanotikaran Kan Munehe. 12 forms known as Jyotirlingas, Jyotirlinga Swarupas emerged at 12 places. Which are they? Saurashtre Somanathascha, Shri Saile Mallikarjunaha, Ujjayinya Mahakala, Omkare cha Amareshwaraha, Kedaro Himavat Prishte, Dakinyam Bhimashankaraha, Varanasyam cha Vishveshaha, Trambako Gomati Tate, Vaidyanathas Chita Bhumau, Nagesho Darukavane, Setu Bandhe cha Rameshe, Gushmeshascha Shivalaye. So in the future episodes, we shall be looking at each of these Jyotirlingas in detail, looking at the Mahatmya, the Sthala Mahatmya, the story, the Puranic story behind each of these Jyotirlingas, and we shall take you on a virtual tour to each of these Jyotirlingas over the next few sessions, and to many more Tirtha Kshetras of Parameshwara. I hope all of you enjoyed the session today. Please do keep watching the session on Subhu's Corner. Do like and subscribe, and also share with interested people. Until we meet next for our session, Namaskara.